ringside. David Octavius Tiberius, the alleged backyard one-time Knockouts Divas Hall of Fame straight edge champion, hero. David, how are you this fine week of June?
You know what? It's been a great week. I got to hang out with my good, close, personal, longtime friends at the Townsend School, the Boys and Girls Club.
You know, I actually went to that Boys and Girls Club as I was growing up.
Did you?
Living on Townsend,
and
yes.
Imagine if I would have been there talking to you, how much better you would have become.
Actually, I'm fairly certain I would not have.
And then I got to chaperone Cal's school class up to Manitowoc. I was in charge of...
Don't you have a day job?
I'm here, aren't I? I was forming the minds of the youths of America this week.
And if there is anything more terrifying, I can't think of it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's PWR Primetime Loaded Show. David Harrell. So let's get right down to business, if you will, into this week's WWE report. And big kickoff to Raw this past Monday night as both Stephanie and Vince McMahon return to WWE Raw. Obviously, they're trying to convince Triple H, the COO, to not wrestle again. The question is, where is this going, and how awesome was it to have Stephanie and Vince back on Raw this past Monday night?
It was
several segments.
It was awesome simply because let's not forget the NBA had Game 7.
Game 7 of the NBA Finals?
No.
It's the last one, isn't it?
No, of the Eastern Conference Finals, going head-to-head with Monday Night Raw. And when you have Stephanie McMahon come out of the ring, who hasn't been on TV that much lately.
She hasn't been on since
followed by Vinnie
July,
Mac. That's big news. People are going to want to check that out. It was awkward seeing how they were almost ripping the fans, saying that they're beneath Triple H, and Triple H doesn't need to do this. They could have gone the more, let's tug on the heartstrings approach and say he's a family man, he's a father.
Would that have been believable, though?
Absolutely.
Really? More believable than what they did, which was, you may want this, but it's not right. It's not the right thing to do.
You can do that, but don't say that you are beneath him. Now you're just, I mean, come on. You and I mentioned how Stephanie comes out 24 hours after Dixie makes her big appearance on Slammiversary. And just the difference, the way both women carry themselves on TV.
What are you saying? Or more importantly, what aren't you saying?
I'm not saying anything or not saying nothing.
Are you saying Stephanie looked like she led a wrestling company and the other may not have?
That's an interesting thought.
You're like, are we going to start calling you David Black? Was it Blackburn, Blackthorn? Linda, what was the fashion guy who always...
Linda?
Well, she's got that belt, you know.
She does have the belt. But no, I'm not implying anything the way what's ever coming out of your mouth.
All I did was ask questions. As a journalist, I followed up.
And it's just interesting.
Well, it was interesting, and obviously Stephanie married to Triple H. We would see Triple H say that come this Monday on Raw, he is going to confront Vince McMahon over this whole situation, or would rather not have to get physical with Vince McMahon. Where's it going?
You know where it's going? You know where it's going? It's proving the fact that right now the talent that they currently have isn't getting the job done.
Here it is.
When you have to dust off Vince McMahon and bring him back.
Dust off. He's not a prop sitting in a warehouse in Stamford, Connecticut. He is ratings.
Listen, he is ratings, and that's what I mean. When you have to bring him back, and then you got to have him in a program. I'm not saying it's going that way, but it's forming. And then Triple H, when Triple H and Vince McMahon are now becoming the focal point of the Monday night show, come on, mid-card, step it up.
It's a week. But really? They're without Ziggler. They're without Punk. They're without Swagger for the last 3 weeks, which we'll talk about in a minute.
No one's missed Swagger. Knock it off. Nobody has. Come on. Ziggler, as an in-ring performer, yes, he's been missed. But you got Bane and Harley Quinn out there. So what's the difference?
You don't care where Triple H, Vince McMahon's going.
No,
There's a third person involved here,
care.
that being Curtis Axel.
And Curtis Axel and Paul Heyman are involved. But I'm just saying they're going back to the well again.
But I thought you liked old school David Hero. I thought you were the traditionalist. I thought you were the one who didn't like these young kids who don't look like wrestlers coming up through the ranks.
I do, but listen, it's the hand we're dealt right now, okay? So we have to get these kids, some seasoning. They have to, get ready.
Speaking of seasoning, it looked like the Usos got some in a strong showing over the Primetime Players this past Monday night. A long tag team matchup on Raw, and it looks like they may be next in line for the tag team champions, The Shield, Rollins and Reigns.
They really got to rebuild Usos. I mean, they really do, because let's face it, for the past 6 months to a year, most tag teams were getting beat down by Big Show.
On SmackDown and main event.
So I like the fact that they're going back to the more traditional Samoan SWAT team, the SST look with the painted faces and whatnot, and but it's gonna be an uphill battle for the Usos, for the Primetime Players, for every other tag team that has not been Hell No or the Shield.
They almost have to reintroduce the Usos.
And that's kind of what they did on Monday night.
Well, Daniel Bryan excels again this past Monday night. Really a standout performer. Everybody knows he's a tremendous wrestler, but he showed us again this past Monday night exactly why. But the question is he the quote-unquote weak link, even though he wrestled twice that night?
It's big things on the horizon for Daniel Bryan. He's getting a lot of TV time. He's in a good spot. I mean, you know what? The match with Ryback was good. It was very solid. I mean, he made Ryback look like $1 million. And when was the last time you can say that about Ryback?
John Cena did at Extreme Rules. They're going to have a great match at Payback, too, by the way, I think.
Oh, they will. It'll be solid. But, right now, Daniel Bryan, I mean, obviously they are comfortable with him. They're confident in his ability. And they're going to start to use him more and more as a singles performer going forward.
Let's talk about that. We had 2 big tag team matchups on Raw this past Monday night. Can you think of the last time that's happened? 6-man and a 4-man.
No, I really can't.
We also saw another win by Curtis Axel over John Cena. However, that was followed up by Ryback putting John Cena through a table to end the broadcast.
First of all, I don't want to hear it's a no DQ match. How could he be counted out? They didn't say it's not a no count-out match.
This is just a reminder. This match is no count-out.
So, I mean, it was just a way of changing some things up, and people are talking about it. Ryback comes out, puts Cena through the table, setting the tone. I mean, they're trying to build more heat on the Ryback-Cena match going into Chicago.
Where is Jack Swagger, David Hero? 3 weeks gone. He's got court on June 25th. He's next scheduled for a WWE live event on June 29th.
He cut his hand.
He's got stitches on his hand. Hogan hurt his hand. He was there the next night.
He wasn't performing in the ring. And Hogan was just doing curls anyhow, so what's the difference?
12 ounce. Overall thoughts on Raw this past Monday night? The 3-hour tour.
It was a comprehensive 3 hours.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Well, SmackDown last night was also very interesting, David Hero, as we saw some standout performances again, but all of that overshadowed by Dolph Ziggler officially announcing his return to Raw this upcoming Monday night.
You know what's great about that is the SmackDown World Champion announces his return to wrestling will be on Monday Night Raw.
He is the World Heavyweight Champion. There's no longer a brand extension. There are 2 champions. They've combined.
But it's funny, isn't it?
To you,
it's funny.
is.
Ha-ha.
Curtis Axel gets a win over Chris Jericho after Jericho was distracted by CM Punk's music.
You know what? They eventually are going to have to give Curtis Axel a strong victory over people besides Sin Cara, okay?
Right.
Because these count-out wins and these victories with distractions and shenanigans and nonsense aren't building him to be a superstar.
Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton get a win over the Shield by disqualification.
And then awkward moment after where Randy Orton accidentally bumps into Daniel Bryan.
And then
an RKO.
An RKO as well,
yes.
yeah.
You know what? Good for Randy Orton for just caring about himself.
That's it for this week's WWE Report. So much more still to come, though, here on the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime, including sharing our thoughts on TNA Slammiversary, which was last Sunday on pay-per-view. We've also got a big update on the draft. Yes,
Amazing.
it has. Yes, it has.
It's flown by.
Big announcement about WWE Payback as well. But first, we've got this week's Event Center and Diamond of the Ring right after the break. Coming up next.
Welcome back to PWR Primetime. Hello, David.
Linda K., did you get the memo from
Which
Damien?
memo?
He has lost his remote control.
Apparently it's somewhere.
It's battery operated, and he can't
or-
find it. So he thinks you took it, just so you know. I'm staying out of this.
I'll try to find it for him.
Thank you.
All right, it's now time for the Event Center, brought to you by Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all. Meet Al Snow at Robert Hack Diamonds on Saturday, July 13th at a special meet and greet event. Get all the details now at pwrshow.com. Next week, we will announce how you can be a part of the first ever My 24 PWR primetime TV taping coming to a major
That is a
entertainment
mouthful.
venue this summer. Yes,
I'm
it
impressed.
is. One breath. Ring of Honor Wrestling returns to Milwaukee's Turner Hall on July 14th for a huge event. Get your tickets now at rohwrestling.com. Milwaukee's very own GLCW returns to Circle B in Cedarburg for Calapalooza on June 28th, featuring Armando Estrada, Scotty 2 Hottie, and Rikishi. Tickets are available now at blizzardbrawl.com. And that's it for this week's Event Center presented by Gruber Law Offices, and we'll see you at the matches.
This week's Robert Hack Diamond of the Ring is the former World Wrestling Entertainment Tag Team Champion, Daniel Bryan Danielson. Yes, not only did he shine in the big six-man tag match against The Shield, but also made Ryback look like $1 million. This week's Robert Hack Diamond of the Ring, the place where they pay cash for gold, is Daniel Bryan.
Daniel Bryan, good job.
Yes.
I like that.
Welcome back.
Wow, you know, he's a smaller statured guy. I'm surprised you would give him any accolades. Because in your mind, unless they look like Paul White,
Listen,
they're not a good wrestler.
let me say something. He is dating one half of the Bella twins.
Which half?
Doesn't make it. Both halves are fantastic. So I'm giving him high fives in my head. That alone there is a Diamond of the Ring moment.
Well, let's go to look back at this past Sunday's Slammiversary on pay-per-view. David Hero, a show that got a lot of good feedback from the audience out there, and maybe it was because the TNA World Heavyweight Championship belt stays around the waist of Bully Ray as he defeated Sting. However, it took him and the Aces and Eights to do so.
They did, and Bully Ray and Sting had a very strong match. It was tough. It was brutal. They beat each other up. They kicked. They punched. They ripped apart the ring to explode the 2x4s. They show the 2x4s, goes for the power driver, dumps Sting on his head. Sting kicks out. Tough match. Interesting.
You know what? But where was Sting's help? And Sting talked about it a little bit on Twitter.
It was
earlier
one of
this
the first things I mentioned. It's like, where were the good guys? Nobody came to save Sting.
Oh, they always finish last.
But here's reasoning behind it. If Bully Ray beats up Sting and half of the TNA locker room good guys, well, now he beats the entire company. Who's next? And plus, they had to set up the whole Jeff Hardy return and everything else. And I mean, Slammiversary may have been the best.
You're going to summarize it? We do that at the end.
I wasn't summarizing anything. I was going to say it was going to be the best use of Aces and Eights and Bully Ray in quite some time. You are just, you know what? You're rude. You know what? You know what I find disappointing?
What's that?
Your lack of faith is disturbing.
I do not have faith. No, I do not have faith. I do know, though, that there was a tremendous last knockout standing match at Slammiversary this past Sunday, that between Taryn Terrell and Gail Kim. David Hero, this was a sleeper match of the night. It was...
Those two girls beat each other up. They did. You know what? Let's give Gail Kim some credit. She's a fantastic in-ring performer. I'm not going to say that she took Taryn Terrell by the hand because Taryn Terrell, she held her own as well.
Yeah.
But Gail Kim led the match, strong match, fast-paced. They created a lot of motion, looked good, and congratulations to those two knockouts.
You know what I would say is good about that matchup? When it was over, I could have watched. I felt like I wanted more. And you always do want to leave them wanting more, which is atypical for a TNA matchup of this magnitude. It was just so well done. This last knockout. I can't remember ever seeing a last man standing match between two female performers, so a last woman standing match. I love it. It was great. It might have been, we've seen two of those now this year at least. Cena, Ryback,
and now from Ryback and Cena to Gail Kim and Taryn Terrell.
Who knew?
And they're both on par.
Several championships changed hands too at Slammiversary. First of which, Chris Sabin wins the X Division Championship in an X Division matchup.
Interesting thing about that match is that you had Chris Sabin, Kenny King, and Suicide.
Suicide!
All three of them got over.
What do you mean?
Well, you figured that they would have showcased just Chris Sabin.
Yeah.
But Suicide got a lot of stuff in. Kenny King got a lot of stuff in.
Did they all get
Chris
their stuff in?
Sabin got the victory, but it almost seemed like the other two guys got more out of the match than Sabin's championship.
Brand new World Tag Team Champions in James Storm and Gunner. It's a four-way tag matchup.
You know what?
Bad
And
Influence.
you know what?
Hernandez, Chavo.
I liked the match. It made sense by having Bad Influence being disqualified, because usually the first team that gets pinned gets buried. This way it got them out of the way, put heat on Rude and Aries by getting a quick roll-up on Chavo and Supermax. And good God Almighty, did you see Gunner? It's like he is the body double now for the Incredible Hulk. He is jacked.
Brand new television champion, ladies and gentlemen. However, it was not Joseph Parks, who was originally scheduled to take on Devon. Aces and Eights take out Park early in the night. Abyss comes back, returns, takes his brother's place, and wins the television championship. 3 titles changing hands.
Just goes to show how Devon was not very smart. Why would you challenge Abyss, the monster Abyss, and say, come on down? He deserved to lose.
Kurt Angle defeats AJ Styles. Styles has some new music. It fits his character a little bit better.
Awkward. It's an awkwardness.
The music or the win?
No. The music, the whole entrance, it's different. It gives a whole new feel to it. Great win by Kurt Angle, beating AJ Styles. Solid match. Looking forward to the rematch next week on Impact.
Overall thoughts of the show, as far as I would say, I was very surprised by the amount of swearing on this broadcast, David Hero's Slammiversary. However, I thought the overall show was very well-paced and deliberate.
You were uncomfortable, weren't you?
It just seemed...
forced.
Forced, exactly.
Yeah. It's not often you hear Hulk Hogan talk like that.
Your thoughts
Except
overall
in
on
his home videos.
Slammiversary?
You know what? I thought it was a very good show. I mean, it was a solid pay-per-view offering by TNA Impact Wrestling.
Well, let's go to some of our fan comments. As you know, the Pro Wrestling Report covers pay-per-views on its Facebook page, and we had a couple of you chime in on your overall thoughts on Slammiversary. First of which was Eric Foster, who said, Bully Ray came out stronger after this, but Aces and Eights as a whole got a lot weaker. In my opinion, the TV title is worthless and has been for a long time.
Well, let's not forget it was the Legends title for the longest time.
Next comes from Akuma Jackson, who gives the pay-per-view a pass, says WWE's pay-per-view was trash. In theory,
I thought you were singing the Lion King song.
Referring to Extreme Rules. TNA Slammiversary was a breath of fresh air. I enjoyed it. Next, speaking of fresh, it's Dazzy Fresh, who says the knockouts did good. Who knew? Again, another solid pay-per-view from TNA. Impromptu match with Devon and Abyss. As for Angle being in the TNA Hall of Fame, the main reason he was probably inducted was because he may be the first one to retire. I think TNA should have given it more thought. All of their inductees are active. Those are just a few of the comments left on the PWR Facebook page by our fans. Be sure to head...
A few we could use. I mean, thank God you finally proofread something.
Be sure to head over to our Facebook page during each WWE and TNA pay-per-view for live exclusive coverage. That's facebook.com/PWR show. As a matter of fact, visit now and like and interact with us, and you could be the PWR Fan of the Week. And David, speaking of the Fan of the Week, let's take a look at who this week's honor went to.
It always pays to interact with PWR on Facebook. I'm Linda Kane. It's time for your post-pay-per-view draft update. At TNA Slammiversary, the tables were turned in the PWR draft. As you remember, last month the scoring was very close, with the Super Friends taking the early lead with 165 points and the Nelson family scoring 145 points in the first event of the draft. You may also remember the fuss that Damian put up when David picked the entire Aces and Eights during the PWR draft special. Well, at Slammiversary, the Aces and Eights ended up basically costing David the event, as the loss of 25 points with Devon's title loss was the exact point deficit that gave the Nelson family the win.
That never should have been a match, okay? Devon wasn't thinking properly. It wasn't sanctioned. It wasn't approved by the office. It never should have been a title loss.
Well, it did give the Nelson family the lead.
Of course, because the Nelson family has to cheat to win.
The win and the lead. All right, here are the final scores coming out of Sunday's pay-per-view. The Nelson family is now in the lead with a total of 245 points to the 240 points of the Super Friends.
So he's in the lead without scoring any points this past Sunday.
Basically.
Brutal.
The next event where points are available is WWE Payback in Chicago. Speaking of Payback, let's take a look at a major announcement for all of our great Chicago area fans.
Shenanigans, David Harrell, the big event coming to Chicago. First time in Chicago. We're going to be with Tara, TNA.
Yes.
Knockout Tara. It's going to be fun. And come on down and join us 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Squirt Circle. And by the way, I'm glad you chose to wear that ridiculous, hideous Super Friends shirt this week.
It is the most popular T-shirt in the history
of dumpsters. On Shenanigans, Chicago. Shenanigans in my kind of town right before Payback. The all-new Nelson family T-shirt.
You got a new T-shirt?
Certified, endorsed.
Well, hopefully this one sells for you, because the last one sure as hell didn't.
Wrestling fans, visit ROHWrestling.com today and experience the best pro wrestling on the planet. Join us live Friday, July 12th, when Ring of Honor returns to the Turner Hall Ballroom in Milwaukee with a 7:30 p.m. bell time. Catch the stars from Ring of Honor Wrestling in action live in Milwaukee. For tickets and information, log on to ROHWrestling.com. Ring of Honor, this is wrestling.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report, Primetime Saturday night. It's time for this week's hot news, and it's all the headlines you need in just about 60 seconds or less. PWR Insider.com is reporting that TNA announcer Todd Kennelly has been dropped from the promotion's announce team. The TNA sources indicate Kennelly was informed by the promotion at the Slammiversary pay-per-view, which as of now was his final appearance. Kennelly was brought into the organization by executive producer Eric Bischoff, who had used him on several previous projects. He debuted for the company in October 2012. Kennelly did take to Twitter to thank his fans, saying, "Thank you so much for all the support and compliments on my work. Can't tell you how much I appreciate it, really making my day." Plan going forward apparently is to revert back to the old Impact Wrestling two-man announcing team of Mike Today and Taz. Former WWE star Scotty 2 Hottie is now a fireman. Scott, whose real name is Scott Garland, graduated from the Lake Technical
You're
Center
breaking
in
kayfabe?
Eustis, Florida on Tuesday night. I think his badge or his identification for the fire department probably says Scott Garland.
You can't
not
say
Scott
hottie if you're a fireman.
Congratulations, Scotty, for stepping out of the spotlight, at least the public spotlight, and into public service. That's it for this week's hot news, and it is time now, though, for this week's Impact Wrestling Report. Big announcement last week, David Hero, that
Huge.
Earlier this week, rather, that Quentin Rampage Jackson would be a part of TNA Impact Wrestling. And a
How
couple
cool
of comments,
that
couple of
B.A.
quotes.
Baracus is now in Impact Wrestling.
B.A. Baracus from the movie The A-Team,
The
the
A-Team,
remake of The
yes,
A-Team,
yes.
if you will. But it all came to a head this past Thursday night. David Hero as Quentin Rampage Jackson, center of the ring. Obviously, let's go over his history a little bit for those that don't know. Former UFC star, as you said, did star in the movie The A-Team. There's a convoluted deal, let's just be real here, between him, Spike TV, Bellator, TNA. He's doing all that,
They're
and
sharing.
a reality show
They're
of his
sharing.
own. Yeah,
They're sharing.
exactly. He's a network star. He's almost like Joan Rivers on E! Joan Rivers always has a show
How
about
can
something.
you compare Rampage Jackson to 97-year-old Joan Rivers?
It all came to a head, though, when he was face-to-face with Kurt Angle. And at that moment, David Hero on Impact this past Thursday night, I said,
Not
that
bad.
makes sense.
You know what?
I get it. I'm intrigued. I want to see that.
I actually like that matchup better than Brock Lesnar and Triple H.
Really?
Because you have a true Olympian gold medalist in Kurt Angle and a UFC champion fighter in Rampage Jackson.
Now,
Same playing field.
Jackson has recently said that, as you know, he departed UFC and is now with Bellator, and said that basically UFC didn't treat him right, or at least in his opinion.
No one ever treats you right when you leave somewhere.
And he's
I'll say the same
excited
about you.
this deal with TNA Impact Wrestling. Now, David Hero, we found out last week, we talked about it last week, TNA President Dixie Carter had teased that there would be a big free agent signing. This has since been revealed as that big free agent. Did they live up to the hype of this major announcement?
Yes, you know why they did? Because with no disrespect to John Morrison, a Carlito, a Matt Hardy, anybody else that's currently out there available on the free agent market, it's better than that. Because now it's not like, oh, okay, it's a retread. They're going to bring somebody back. Now it's something new and different.
Yeah.
And let's face it, Rampage Jackson, he is a star. Mm-hmm. It's a pop culture cross-media star.
Here's the thing, though. You know,
here's the thing.
You can gauge a lot of what the public reaction is to a broadcast by what people are saying about it on social media. And I remember during Impact this past Thursday looking at the PWR Twitter feed and saying,
Rampage.
Nobody's talking about it. There was no buzz.
There's a little bit of buzz. I mean, you know, see, I look at everybody. You just have your little network of Nelson family friends that you like to watch.
The interns give me a daily report of all the tweets, all the mentions.
Rampage was trending, though. I mean, it may not have been tagged, but he was there. It's a big signing for TNA Impact Wrestling. Now they got Rampage and King Mo. All I'm missing is Mabel.
This week's Impact Report. Let's go to the Outlook, David Hero. And this week, what's going to happen with Triple H and Vince McMahon, I think, is really the guiding story. Will CM Punk make an appearance on Raw? And what is next between Rampage Jackson and Kurt Angle? Those are the things at least I'm looking to get answers to, along with Dolph Ziggler's big reintroduction into WWE on Raw. We're going into Payback as the go-home edition of Raw.
You know what? What you're missing, though, is what's coming up this week is really Superman.
Is that
Iron Man?
thimble?
Iron Man's done. And now Hey, wait a minute. Hey.
That's it for this week's edition of the Pro Wrestling Report.
Can't breathe. Help.
We'll see you next week.
Seriously.